Have you ever wondered why so many people reach the end of their lives without ever feeling that they truly lived? From the outside, their lives seem complete. They've built careers, started families, earned respect, collected achievements. Yet somewhere beneath the surface, a quiet emptiness remains. It is difficult to explain. They did everything they were supposed to do, everything society told them would bring fulfillment, and yet something still feels missing. Carl Jung believed this quiet emptiness had a simple but unsettling cause. Most people never become who they truly are. Instead, they become who they believe they must be. The difference may seem small. In reality, it changes an entire life. Think back to your earliest memories. Long before you understood the world was already teaching you about yourself. Adults praised certain behaviors. They discouraged others. You learned that some emotions were acceptable. Others were embarrassing. Some dreams were celebrated. Others were dismissed as unrealistic. Little by little, without even noticing, you began shaping yourself around other people's expectations. Not because you wanted to, because every child longs to belong. Acceptance feels like survival. Rejection feels dangerous, so you adapt. You smile when you're expected to smile. You remain silent when honesty feels risky. You hide parts of yourself that seem inconvenient. At first, these changes appear harmless, but over the years, something remarkable happens. The mask becomes so familiar that you forget it is a mask. Jung called this mask the persona. It is the version of yourself designed for the world, the successful employee, the confident leader, the perfect student, the responsible parent, the agreeable friend. There is nothing inherently wrong with the persona. Every society requires some level of cooperation. The problem begins when you mistake the mask for your true identity. Imagine an actor performing the same role every single day. For years, the audience applauds. Critics admire the performance. Eventually, the actor goes home, looks into the mirror, and no longer remembers who exists beneath the costume. This happens more often than we realize. Many people wake each morning living according to habits they never consciously chose, working toward goals they never questioned, following paths they inherited from parents, teachers, friends, or culture itself. Success becomes imitation, not self-discovery. Socrates warned Athens about this more than 2,000 years ago. He believed the greatest danger was not ignorance, it was living without examination. The unexamined life is not worth living. Those words were not an insult. They were an invitation to pause, to question, to ask difficult questions that most people avoid. Who am I when nobody is watching? What do I actually value? Which dreams are truly mine, and which ones were handed to me by someone else? These questions can feel uncomfortable, because honest answers often require painful change. It is easier to continue following familiar roads, even if they lead somewhere you never intended to go. Imagine walking through an enormous labyrinth. At every intersection, someone else chooses your direction. Parents choose one path, friends choose another, society points toward another. Years pass, you continue walking. Eventually, you stop asking whether the destination is actually yours. You simply assume it must be. Many people spend decades inside this invisible labyrinth, not because they are trapped by walls, but because they stopped questioning the map. Modern life makes this even more difficult. Every screen tells you who to admire. Every advertisement tells you what to desire. Every trend quietly suggests how to think, how to dress, how to speak, even how to measure your own worth. Without noticing, comparison replaces curiosity. Approval replaces authenticity. And slowly, the distance between who you are and who you pretend to be grows larger every year. The tragedy is not that people wear masks. Every human being does. The tragedy is forgetting that they can be removed. Because beneath every expectation, beneath every role, beneath every fear of disappointing others, there is still a person waiting to be discovered. Not created, not invented, simply remembered. And perhaps the first step toward finding yourself is realizing that much of what you call me was chosen by someone else. The greatest prison is rarely built from stone. It is built from expectations. Unlike walls, you cannot see it. Unlike chains, you cannot hear it. Yet millions of people spend their entire lives inside it. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble. Every strike of the chisel removes something. Slowly, a figure begins to appear. Your identity is shaped in much the same way, except the sculptors are often invisible. Parents, teachers, friends, culture, religion, success, failure, fear. Every experience quietly removes one possibility while strengthening another. Over time, you begin believing that what remains is all you could ever be. But what if the sculptors were wrong? Carl Jung believed that every person carries within themselves a hidden side, not evil, not dangerous, simply forgotten. He called it the shadow. The shadow is made of every part of yourself that you learned to hide. The emotions that were called unacceptable, the dreams that sounded unrealistic, the talents nobody encouraged, the curiosity that made others uncomfortable, the confidence you were told was arrogance, the sensitivity you were told was weakness. Nothing truly disappears. It simply moves into the unconscious, and from there, it quietly continues influencing your life. Have you ever met someone who suddenly exploded with anger over something insignificant, or someone who constantly criticized others for flaws they secretly possessed themselves? Jung believed these moments reveal the shadow. The parts we refuse to acknowledge often find another way to speak, not because they want to destroy us, because they want to be seen. Most people spend enormous amounts of energy pretending to be only the qualities society rewards. Always confident, always productive, always happy, always successful. But human beings were never meant to be one-dimensional. Real strength is not pretending darkness does not exist. It is learning to understand it. Imagine standing before an ancient mirror inside a forgotten Greek temple. At first, the reflection looks ordinary, but as you continue staring, another version of yourself slowly begins to appear. Not a monster, not a stranger, simply the person you abandoned many years ago. The child who asked impossible questions, the teenager who dreamed without limits, the adult who once believed life could be different. What happened to that person? Most of the time, nothing dramatic. They were simply buried beneath years of adaptation. Each compromise seemed insignificant. Each sacrifice felt necessary, until eventually, the authentic self became quieter than the expectations surrounding it. Modern society rewards imitation remarkably well. Algorithms encourage familiar opinions. Institutions reward predictable behavior. Trends reward conformity. Difference often feels risky. Sameness feels safe. But safety comes with a hidden cost. Every time you ignore your own voice to satisfy someone else's expectations, you teach yourself that your authentic self is less valuable than approval. Repeat this often enough, and eventually you stop hearing your own voice altogether. This is why solitude frightened so many people throughout history. When the noise disappears, there is nowhere left to hide. No audience, no performance, no applause, only yourself. Blaise Pascal once wrote that much of humanity's suffering comes from its inability to sit quietly alone in a room. Perhaps he understood something timeless. Silence removes distraction, and without distraction, the questions return. Who am I without my achievements, without my possessions, without my reputation, without the roles I perform every day? These questions rarely produce immediate answers. Instead, they slowly dissolve the illusions we have mistaken for identity. This process is uncomfortable, sometimes painful, because discovering yourself often begins with losing the version of yourself that everyone else expected you to become. The mask does not disappear all at once. It falls away piece by piece, and beneath every layer, you find something unexpected. Not perfection, not certainty, but something infinitely more valuable. Someone real. Someone who was waiting patiently beneath the expectations for you to finally remember they were there. And perhaps the first step toward finding yourself is realizing that much of what you call me was chosen by someone else. There is a moment that arrives in almost every life, a quiet moment, often unexpected, when everything that once seemed important suddenly feels strangely empty. The career you spent years building, the approval you worked so hard to earn, the image you carefully protected. None of it answers the question that has been waiting beneath the surface all along. Who am I? It is one of the oldest questions in philosophy, yet it remains one of the least explored, because finding an answer requires something most people avoid: letting go. not of your responsibilities, not of your relationships, but of the identities you never consciously chose. Imagine carrying a backpack since childhood. Every person you met placed something inside it: a belief, a fear, an expectation, a definition of success, a definition of failure, a definition of who you should become. At first, the backpack feels light. You hardly notice it. But year after year, it grows heavier. Eventually, you become exhausted. Not because life itself is too difficult, because you are carrying things that were never yours. The philosophers understood this burden. The Stoics taught that freedom begins when you separate what belongs to you from what never did. Your character belongs to you. Your choices belong to you. Your attention belongs to you. But your reputation, that belongs to other people. Their opinions, their expectations, their judgments. You can influence them. You can never own them. The moment your identity depends on something outside your control, your peace becomes fragile. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this almost every day. As emperor, millions admired him. Millions criticized him. He understood that neither admiration nor criticism could define who he truly was, because both existed only inside other people's minds. The only place where character could be measured was within himself. This is perhaps why genuine confidence appears so quiet. It does not need constant proof. It does not demand applause. It does not fear disagreement, because it is rooted in something deeper than public opinion. Carl Jung believed that the goal of life was not becoming perfect. It was becoming whole. Wholeness does not mean eliminating every flaw. It means accepting every part of yourself with honesty. Your strengths, your fears, your ambition, your compassion, your confidence, your uncertainty. Only when every part is acknowledged can every part begin working together. Imagine an ancient tree standing alone on a mountain. Storms arrive every season. Powerful winds bend its branches. Snow covers its trunk. Lightning strikes nearby. Yet year after year, it remains standing. Not because the storms stopped, because its roots grew deeper than the storm could reach. Human beings are remarkably similar. The deeper your identity grows within yourself, the less it depends upon the weather outside. Praise becomes pleasant, but unnecessary. Criticism becomes informative, but not destructive. Success becomes enjoyable, but not your identity. Failure becomes painful, but not your definition. This is the freedom that philosophers searched for. Not freedom from difficulty, freedom from living according to everyone else's expectations. Perhaps this explains why so many people spend their entire lives feeling lost. They search for themselves in careers, relationships, money, status, recognition, travel, possessions. But none of these places contain the answer, because you cannot discover yourself by collecting more things outside yourself. You discover yourself by removing everything that is not truly you. Michelangelo once said that every sculpture already exists inside the marble. The artist simply removes what does not belong. Perhaps your life works the same way. You do not need to invent a new identity. You need to uncover the one that has been buried beneath years of fear, comparison, expectation, and imitation. This is not a journey that ends in a single day. It may take years, perhaps a lifetime. But every honest question brings you one step closer. Every decision made according to your own values strengthens your foundation. Every moment of courage removes another piece of the mask, until eventually, one ordinary morning, you wake up, and for the first time, the life you are living finally feels like your own. Perhaps that is the greatest privilege any human being can receive, not becoming someone admired by the world, but becoming someone you can recognize when you finally look into the mirror.